What's up, friends? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dave from Chase the Summit, and today we've got my full in-depth review of the new Apple Watch Series 10. Sorry, I'm a little bit late to the game on this one. I received this watch right on launch day, and I've been able to test it out ever since. I've been using it for a couple of weeks, every single day, 24 hours a day, sleeping with it, running with it, doing all the things, so I can give you my honest and full thoughts about it today. The Apple Watch Series 10 is sort of the default option when it comes to Apple Watches because it sort of sits in the middle of the lineup. You've got the Apple Watch SE being the least expensive, the Series 10 being in the middle, and then we've got the most expensive Apple Watch Ultra 2 here. The interesting thing about the Series 10 though is that this watch is the watch that received the most updates this time around, where the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here just got a new color, the Apple Watch SE is largely the same, while the Series 10 is pretty much an entirely different watch, even though it's very similar to previous models. With that out of the way, let's buckle up and talk about the first topic, and that's Apple Watch OS 11. I'm sort of gonna glaze over all the software features in the Apple Watch Series 10 because largely it's the same as the Apple Watch Series 7, the Series 8, the Series 9. They all use the same software. You've got Apple Watch OS 11 and all of its new updates, including the enhanced Smart Stack, the new Photos watch face, the new Activity app with customized tiles, the new training load feature, the new Tides app to let you know when high and low tide are coming. And most importantly, you've got the new Vitals app that gives you your daily wellness feedback from your heart rate overnight to your sleep metrics and everything in between. The Series 10 also gets that new sleep apnea detection, which is pretty interesting, but again, that's also available on the Series 9 and the Apple Watch Ultra 2. So I'm not gonna talk too much about Apple Watch OS 11 here. If you wanna learn all about that, I've got other videos that cover all of the new and exciting features. Go check out those videos. I'll link them up here or down below. So what is new and exciting with the Apple Watch Series 10 if it's so similar to previous models? Well, first of all, the hardware. One of the biggest updates with the Series 10 is actually its form factor. This watch is slightly larger than previous models. It comes in two different sizes. You've got the small one being 42 millimeters and the bigger one, which is what I have here, being 46 millimeters. Now the previous models like the Series 7, 8, and 9 had a 41 millimeter and 45 millimeter option. Will you notice 1 millimeter difference on your wrist? Likely not, but they did use that extra space for other features, which I'll talk about in a minute. Another change to the Series 10 is that if I flip them on their sides here, it also got significantly thinner. And when I say significantly, it's only 1 millimeter thinner, but again, that is something you notice on your wrist. The new Series 10 comes in at 9.7 millimeters thick, but it's not really 9.7 millimeters thick. If I take out my calipers here and measure the Series 10 to its thickest points, you can see it's actually 12.2 millimeters thick and not 9.7 millimeters thick. And that's because Apple plays that game where the thickness is measured on the actual device. You can see there 9.7 and not including the heart rate sensor. But it is still thinner than the Series 7, 8, and 9. Another update to the Apple Watch Series 10 is that it comes in a couple of new colors, including this new jet black color here, which is a glossy black color. I thought this was actually going to be like a fingerprint magnet, but it does actually resist fingerprints pretty well. And because of that dark color, they are hard to notice. And for reference, like I said, this is the 46 millimeter jet black option here. In the band I do have included here is the ink color sport loop, which I do really like. This also has the same band mechanism here that slides in from the side. So if you do have a collection of bands from your previous watch, they'll work here as well. And if you were curious about the size, my wrists are about 165 millimeters in diameter. And as you can see, this is the Apple Watch Ultra 2 Black here, and this is the Apple Watch Series 10. Flipping the watch over, we do have the same heart rate sensor on the back of the Apple Watch Series 10, which is the same as the Series 9, the 8, and the 7. And that's to say it's a pretty good heart rate sensor in my testing so far historically, and we'll talk more on accuracy later in this video. One major thing to note about the heart rate sensor on the Series 10 is that this watch does not have blood oxygen sensing. There's no SpO2 sensor on this watch. The hardware is physically there, but it is disabled at a software level here in the USA. If you're outside the USA, you still get it, but here in the USA, it is turned off, unfortunately, due to an ongoing lawsuit with Apple. Hey there, quick interruption. If you're finding this video fun or helpful, it would mean a lot to me if you'd head down and give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel down below, because it turns out only like 20% of you are subscribed to this channel. So go down and hit that button. Helps me out, okay? Back to the video. All right, jumping back to the front of the watch here, let's talk about the display on the Apple Watch Series 10, because this is the largest display that Apple has ever put in a watch. And yes, that does include the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here as well. As you can see, the display on the Series 10 is slightly larger than the Apple Watch Ultra 2. Not by much, it's like a fraction of a millimeter, but it is slightly larger. Where you really notice the larger display though is when you compare it to older watches. So I have a Series 7 here, and as you can see, the Series 10 has a significantly larger watch face. And that extra real estate on the Series 10 is noticeable in certain apps. For example, if you go for a run, you do get an extra line of metrics. So you have one additional piece of information during that run compared to the older models. Another big update on the Apple Watch Series 10, or claimed big update from Apple, of course, is the new wide-angle OLED technology on the Apple Watch Series 10. And what that means is that at steep angles, like off angles when you're glancing at your watch, the Apple Watch Series 10 should be significantly brighter, they claim about 40% brighter than the previous models. So if I take these two watches and I sort of angle them down at a steep angle while trying to keep them awake, that's the real challenge, you can see that the Series 7 on the right here does dim a little bit, where the Series 10 maintains its brightness even at a really steep off angle. And that's just inherent to that new wide angle technology. It's pretty cool. Does that really make a huge difference in usability in practice? Not really. I have noticed though, when I'm out on a run or a hike and I go to glance at the metrics of my watch, I can see it a little bit quicker because I don't have to fully rotate the watch to be, coplanar with my face. It can be at a steep angle and I can still get the information. But largely, it's not a huge leap in innovation. Another welcome update to the Apple Watch Series 10 that's not available on previous models is the ability to update the watch face even when the watch face is asleep. So if you have the always on display mode turned on like I do now, you can see that the seconds are still ticking by on the Apple Watch Series 10, where on the previous model, the Series 7 here, there's no second hand. You only get your minute and hour hand. On the Series 10, you can see each second ticking by. And they do that by refreshing the watch face every 1 second. So it's not going to take a hit on your battery life, but you still get that 1 second feedback. Again, how useful is that feature in everyday life? Honestly, not that useful. It's not something I even notice. It is a nice to have. And if you are someone maybe who times things routinely manually without setting a timer, it might be nice to have that 1 second feedback. Let's talk about the user experience on the Apple Watch Series 10 and what it's like to use. Largely the same as previous models. Now, the Apple Watch Series 10 does get a new processor under the hood called the S10 Sip, not chip, Sip. That new S10 processor, to my knowledge, has some additional AI dedicated cores that the previous models don't have, but it's unclear what benefit or advantage that gives this watch compared to older models. I can only assume it's for something down the road that'll roll out with Apple Intelligence, but for now, the experience is pretty much the same. For example, if I load up the same app on both watches at the same time, I'll try to do it identically like that. You can see they both open pretty much instantly. Scrolling around is exactly the same on both watches. There's really no advantage to the S10 at this time. One thing that has changed under the hood with the Apple Watch Series 10 though is the speakers. So on the side of the watch here, they did make a new speaker for the thinner form factor. And in the process of doing that, they enabled that speaker to actually play back music or podcasts, where on previous models, you were sort of stuck to using the speaker for phone calls or recordings, things like that, but you couldn't actually play back music from the speaker. And I've been pretty surprised by the quality, and it's pretty usable. Like if you're cooking dinner and you want to listen to a podcast, this is an easy way to do that if you don't have your phone nearby or you don't have earbuds and you want to hear what's going on in the room around you. Last week I cracked 60 miles. That is pretty good for me. I know most people out there running a race like this probably want to be hitting 100 miles in a week to be ready for a 100-mile race. And again, this is not one of those features that's like a huge selling point, like how often do you listen to music on your watch, but it is a nice to have. Now let's talk about the depth and water temperature sensor, because the new Apple Watch Series 10 does have a depth sensor on board, while previous models did not. Just like the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here, you can take this watch diving and snorkeling and things like that and have that recorded on the watch. You can get a real-time readout of how deep in the water you are and what the water temperature is, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, unlike the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here, which is dive rated to 40 meters, which is very deep, the Apple Watch Series 10 here is only rated for 6 meters or about 20 feet. So you're not going to use this for like scuba diving or anything like that. It's that's really only designed for free diving or snorkeling, that sort of thing. And then after the fact, you'll actually record that as an activity in your Apple Health or your Apple Activity app. Moving right along into the next topic, now let's talk about GPS accuracy and heart rate accuracy. And again, there's a lot of similarities here between the Apple Watch Series 10, the Series 9, and even the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here. When it comes to GPS accuracy on the Series 10, it's looking really good, and that's not really a surprise because in the past on the Series 9, I also got very good results. And for a little bit of context for the purpose of my testing, I mainly use these watches for running, and that's either road running or trail running, and in both use cases, I've gotten pretty good results from the Apple Watch Series 10 that are sort of right in line with what you'd expect from this kind of watch. The Series 8, the Series 9, and the Series 10 all sort of perform the same way, and that's to say pretty good. But what about optical heart rate accuracy from the sensor on the back of the watch? Again, not a lot of surprises here either. Now, to be fair, in previous models like the Series 8, the Series 9, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 here, these watches have some of the best heart rate sensors on the market. And in my historical testing of these watches, I've pretty much gotten solid results every single time with just about every release, like every modern release of an Apple Watch within the past few years. And that's no different here as well. The Apple Watch Series 10 is performing exceptionally well when it comes to the heart rate sensor on the back of the watch as compared to an ECG sensor. So again, not going to beat a dead horse here. Now let's talk about battery life with the Apple Watch Series 10. Again, a lot of similarities here compared to previous models. If you look at the spec sheet for the Series 10, you will find that this has the same great all-day battery life, which means 18 hours with typical use. And that claim always annoyed me because 18 hours is not one day, but that's besides the point. I've been doing a whole bunch of testing when it comes to battery life on the Series 10, and I will say I'm getting better than advertised battery life when I'm using it lightly. So that means no GPS activity, just wearing it as a smartwatch and using it throughout the day and sleeping with it. And I get about a day and a half in that kind of situation. If you are a power user, you're using the LTE function constantly, you've got the screen brightness up and you're going for runs every single day, that's when you'll see more like 18 hours or less. But generally speaking, you can get through a whole day pretty easily with the Apple Watch Series 10, and then you'll have to charge it. With battery life out of the way, that brings us to the next topic, and this is probably the main reason to upgrade to the Apple Watch Series 10, which is why I saved it for last. The Apple Watch Series 10 now has fast charging capabilities, and it is very fast, way faster than the previous models, and something I truly appreciate. Like I said, the Apple Watch Series 10 doesn't have super long battery life compared to like Garmin watches that go for weeks at a time. You're getting 1 day at a time here, which can be a little frustrating if you want to wear it to bed and also wear it for your morning workout and also wear it to work and you have no time to charge it in between. That's where the fast charging is a huge upgrade and something I find to be super convenient. Apple claims that you can charge from 0% to 80% in just 30 minutes. And I've done a whole bunch of testing on this, and their claims are true. In fact, I'm getting even more than 80% in 30 minutes. For the sake of science, I did a test where I set up the Series 7 and the Series 10 here on the same chargers using the same charging bricks. And after 30 minutes on the Apple Watch Series 7, this watch charged to about 30%, where the Series 10 charged to about 85% in that same duration of time, which is kind of crazy. Charging on the Series 10 does slow down significantly from 80% to 100%, but you can still charge this watch very comfortably well under an hour. There is some fine print with the fast charging though. If you do want to enable fast charging, you have to use this kind of charger, the kind with the aluminum puck underneath it. And this is included with the Apple Watch Series 10, the Series 9, I think, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2. If you do have a previous charger that's all white and all plastic, that one will not enable fast charging. Just something to keep in mind. Another thing you want to keep in mind is what you're plugging the charger into. If you're using like a 5-watt power brick, again, you won't get fast charging. You need like a 15-watt or more to enable this. But the fast charging feature on the Apple Watch Series 10, in my opinion, is like the main reason to upgrade from like a Series 8 or Series 9 to a Series 10 if you find yourself running out of juice constantly. If you were to keep a charger in your car and one on your nightstand, you'll pretty much be set. You could throw the watch on there while you're showering and pretty much top it off in 30 minutes, or on your commute to work and still top it off. So a really nice feature, and I'm glad to see it here if we don't get multi-day battery life. Okay, that brings us to the end of this video, and I sort of want to wrap this whole thing up by trying to explain who I think this watch is for. The Apple Watch Series 10 is a really nice multi-purpose smartwatch with a ton of health and wellness features, a really good heart rate sensor, and decent GPS accuracy. To be honest though, the Series 10 does feel more like an incremental update. It is very similar to the previous generation from the 7, the 8, and the 9. The larger display, the wide angle incredible OLED technology, the dive features, and the ability to play back music from the built-in speaker are all welcome additions. But are those big enough reasons to go out and spend $400 if you already have something like a Series 9? Probably not. I think I would summarize this whole thing by saying, if you already have an Apple Watch Series 9 and you're happy with it and you don't have a problem with the charging, like I said, the charging is probably the biggest feature to upgrade. In that case, it's probably worth hanging on to your Series 9 and hoping that some bigger feature comes out with the Series 11 next year. With that being said, I do think if you have an older model than a Series 9, like a Series 5 or Series 6, that's where the Series 10 represents a pretty big upgrade path. You get a lot of features here compared to those models. Unfortunately, still no SPO2. And on the other hand, if you don't own a smartwatch at all, or you're coming from another platform like Garmin, the Series 10 is the best one they've ever made, so you might as well get this one. At the end of the day, I do really like the Apple Watch Series 10. I've been enjoying my time with it, going for runs with it. It's a really nice watch. The only thing I wish they could have done that everyone's been asking for is added more battery life, but I guess fast charging will have to do for now. But that's just my opinion, and I'm just some guy on YouTube, and now's the point of the video where I want to hear from you. Did you buy an Apple Watch Series 10? What do you think about it so far? Are you gonna hang on to your Series 6 or Series 7? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And after you're done leaving that comment, also check out the description of this video down below where you can find links to head over and buy your very own Apple Watch Series 10 or Series 9 or Series 8 or any other watch I talked about in this video. And after you're done shopping, also check out the links over to my other social media accounts like my Strava, my Instagram, my Threads account, my Twitter, all those things, including my merch store. You can get a sweet t-shirt like this or a really nice custom hat like that. And I think we did it. We made it to the end of this video. And if you're still watching, I think you probably liked this video. And if you did like it, I'd really appreciate it if you went down and gave me a big old thumbs up and subscribe to the channel down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future. Do that, okay? And
12:22 p.m.
Why are you talking to me, Siri? Okay, I gotta go. I'll see you next time. Bye.